back to Miki Car Beauty. My name is Miki Carrico, and on my little YouTube channel, I love to talk about luxury skincare and beauty and sometimes independent products. And this is part 2 of my Lisa Eldridge Holiday 2022 review of her eyeshadow collection. So I did end up picking up all 5 of her eyeshadows, and the reviews were getting so long I decided to split up. So if you haven't seen my other video, I'll post it up here and then the link it below to part 1 of the review where I reviewed Muse, Cinnabar, and Vega. And I also will have a link to my entire Lisa Eldridge playlist below as well if you want to check that out. So I did review also in a separate video all 5 of her new velvet lipsticks, and they are glorious. Today I'm reviewing the palettes of Myth and Sorcery. So if you're interested in that review, remember to hit the subscribe button so you can subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell so you know when I upload a video, and then comment and like below. And so let's begin. The Lisa Eldridge Myth eyeshadow palette is described as adorn your eyes in a rich synergy of decadent color from lavender gray and smoked amethyst to pure violet. Myth palette takes its inspiration from the mauve decade and Victorian Gothic hues. Wear these shades alone, wash across the lids for wearable, beautiful clouds of color, or dial up the darker hues for a dramatic eye look. This cruelty product is free from microplastics and talc. Taking my Xoxo Z Series eyeshadow brush, I go into Mauve Decade, which is a velvet color, and just lay that all over my eyelids as a base color. This was a perfect brush for this shadow, no fallout whatsoever. Then I go into Victorian Trim, which is a velvet shade, rich and brown, vibrant mulberry, just to pack on that beautiful color with a rougher brush. And then I take Faded Amethyst with my finger, which is a satin metallic, smoky and lustrous taupey amethyst. This is my favorite shade in this bunch, along with the Victorian Trim. Beautiful colors just all over the lid, very creamy. It looks beautiful. And then Violet Stone, which is a velvet shade, pure violet, to smoke out the edges and create a crease on my outer V. And then just taking my time there to create a V and deepen up and use those dynamic colors. And then I take a squirrel hair brush, and it's clean, and I'm just diffusing the colors, and I take my time to carve out the edge just because I have hooded lids. And then going back into Victorian Trim again, and to get some of that beautiful mulberry color, because I lost some of it in the brushing out of and blending of the colors. So just take my time. Then I go back into Mauve Decade, that velvet muted gray lavender for the lower lid. And then taking Victorian Trim again and using that to deepen the lower lid, and then connecting the bottom color to the other on the top. And then going back into Violet Stone, which is that velvet pure violet color. It's such a really beautiful, sumptuous color for the liner, my lower third of my liner. And then going into Nocturama as a velvet deep black and violet. It's very rich. It's almost black, but there is a plumminess to it. So I use that as mostly as my liner to give some dimension to the look. And then going back into Mauve Decade, that velvet color, and just blending out the edges of my crease. And then topping off the look with Illusionism. It's a top coat transparent base with ultraviolet sparkly pearls. It's so pretty. I just decided to tamp it all over the lid just to get a really more amped up look with my fingers. It is beautiful all over the lid. Okay, beauty fam, I'm back with the finished eye look for this beautiful purple violet sultry palette. I love it. So let me get in close so you can see. And let me finish up with the lipstick. So, and lipstick and blush. So I grabbed the Velvet Myth from Lisa Eldridge, and it's this red, but it's kind of a berry toned red. So what I'm going to do is actually put a little bit of this on first so you can see how a light application looks. And all I have is a little bit of light balm, clear balm on my lips. Okay, and this is Velvet Myth, and this is a really great way to use these really bright reds and bright colors if you don't want to go on full on. As sometimes I just don't want a full on like matte pigmented look. And so one of the easiest ways is to grab some sort of clear gloss. I'm using the Laneige Berry Glowy Lip Balm and just put that on my lips. And you can have this really nice wash of color. If you want it to make it even more like a lip gloss, just put more gloss down. And then you end up having this really beautiful kind of berry glossy look. I'm just kind of showing you different ways you can use these lipsticks. This is what's so great about Velvet lipsticks, is that you can build them up and they're going to be super pigmented, or you can just sheer them out. Sheer it out and then with gloss underneath. So you can have like a more of a look like this, because this is a really bold look. Okay, so I've grabbed the Velvet Myth again and making sure not to go too high on the bullet, because these do break if you put them up too high. Such a beautiful lipstick. Okay, grabbing my lip liner in Myth. Okay, that is Velvet Myth with the liner. Such a beautiful color. So that's Velvet Myth. I'm getting close so you can see it's got a little bit more of a berry undertone. I'm going to add some of this Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow highlighter, and that's what I did in my last video. I would take the lipstick and then add some of the glow highlighter, and this is Solar Light, and then mix some of that up. Really bright, so I'm going to tamp that down a little bit. And I do have bronzer on already, the Victoria Beckham bronzer, and my Westman Atelier contour stick in Truffle. And because it's such a bright color for blush, I'm just putting it back there. Love it. And actually I'm going to add a little bit more highlight. I usually put this underneath my foundation. I'm using the Lisa Eldridge number 17. I'm using the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin number 17. I'm using that in all my Lisa Eldridge demos. And then just taking some of that Seamless Skin, this highlighter here. Oh, it looks so cohesive, this look. It's beautiful. Get in close, and let me put my hair back a little so you can see this eye look. I'm gonna get in close. And I could have gone in with a lighter lipstick. This is such a bold violet purple look that I could have pulled a more nudie pink, but in the videos I've been trying to find the corresponding lipsticks to the palettes. Why don't we talk about this palette? So here are the swatches. I think it's a lovely palette. It's showing up this bright color, which is Victorian Trim. It is a rich brown and vibrant mulberry color. I think this might be my favorite color in this palette just because it's so unusual. I don't think I have a color like this in my collection. I just think it's gorgeous. Now, if you saw my first video, I experienced some fallout in some of the previous palettes. I don't see any matte colors in here. I did get some feedback from some of you who had watched my first video to either why don't I try not using a primer? That didn't work for me. I found that really worked for me was to not really go heavy and dig into the palettes. So I think what was happening was that I was being a little bit too aggressive with the palettes. And why don't I show an example? Instead of going, I think I was doing this on the palettes, like pushing it in. I don't know if I can show you. Like I was kind of picking up stuff like this. And I don't think that's the best way to pick up pigment on here. I almost think it's just kind of like this. Basically, I think what was happening is I was getting too much pigment and too much eyeshadow on the brush, and then it was getting fallout. It's much more intentional in taking my time in doing my makeup. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. I tried on Vega again for a second time, and I did not get as much fallout, if any. So I think what I was doing was I tried my technique. I continued to use eye primer. I continue to use my high quality Sonia G brushes. They're absolutely my favorite. Today I actually used one of my favorite soft squirrel hair brushes, and I used the eyeshadow brush, the Chikuhodo Squirrel Hair Z series, for my base. And I use this on this color, and I love, this is one of my favorite brushes. It can go right over the crease, and then you put it on the side, and it goes and builds the crease shade that you need. And I'm really curious to use this again with the other 3 palettes I tried, but for the matte shades, because the mattes are a little bit drier. The velvets are almost like in between. They're just a little bit more kind of like a creamy matte almost. They remind me of the Natasha Denona shades, where they're not completely matte, but they have some like a little bit of creaminess into it. So really, now that I'm knowing how to work with these shades much better, I'm really enjoying the velvet formula. And I really love the metallic. The metallic, you saw that I applied this beautiful shade. This is the Faded Amethyst Metallic shade. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's, you know, for the purposes of this video, I used all of the shades, but this could be basically a one and done for me. So I'm really excited to use this shade as a one and done, and maybe use this as a topper, and then use eyeliner. So how I finished up my look, on the top lid, I used my Purple Chocolate Chanel Stilo waterproof liner. Actually, they don't make this anymore. I think they have a new name for this, but it's kind of like this. I don't know if I can see. It's this top color right here. It's just a lovely, lovely color. It's my favorite, probably purple color in my eyeliner collection. And then I used Mystic Purple from Sisley, and this is, along with Chanel and the Sisley liners, these are my favorite in my collection. They're one of those they're roll-ups, so you don't have to like sharpen them, and they have like a gel formula, but not too slick, and they dry down. You have some wiggle room to smudge it out, but if you don't want to smudge it, it will dry down. And these are the ones that I find that last the most on my oily hooded eyelids. So these are really my holy grail liners. The Sisley is definitely a little bit more expensive than the Chanel, but they each have like different kind of Chanel's, you know, has a lot of different colors, and Sisley's starting to expand their colors on that. Did not do my concealer. All I did was put corrector, because that's what I learned from the last 3 eyeshadows, was not to do either my foundation or my concealer beforehand. And so I did my base makeup up till here, and then I just put a little bit of under eye corrector just to hide the darkness. Did my makeup, my eye makeup, and then I went in with my Pat McGrath concealers in LM14 and 11. And okay, so I pulled out some eyeshadow palettes that might be either possible dupes or vibes. I don't want to swatch too many of these because this video is already long. 2 Suku palettes that are similar vibes. So this is Suku palette 135. And it doesn't have that deep mulberry color. It has a little bit of that pink, but this is not an exact dupe. Maybe this is the closest color that's similar, but that's a deep color. So I have the 103 Suku palette, which was a limited edition palette. Again, not really the same, but similar vibes. This color here, right here, beautiful. It's like what that silky formula, love it. You see that? It's almost got like a purpley, mauvey taupey vibe to it. Such a beautiful color. I don't even know if they make this anymore. I think it's a limited edition. I was definitely thinking of the vibes of the Violet Sateen palette of Tom Ford. And I recently got this palette probably, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I've been using it a lot. But when I was doing this eye look, I was definitely smiling and enjoying the palette because the vibes remind me of this Tom Ford Violet Sateen, but I don't believe they're the same. This color shade here does remind me a little bit of the vibes of the mulberry shade. So this is the closest to this shiny shade here. So sorry, I'm trying to get that swatch here, but it's definitely more shiny. If you can see, this is deeper. And then this one here could be equivalent to that, but this is more of a topper. And we have this one, it's like a mulberry shade, and then the deeper one. So yes, this one is close to that deep purple, but this one is the closest to that. But yeah, again, that mulberry shade from the Myth palette is something that I have not seen in any of purple eyeshadows that I own, at least. 2 colors are just unique. I love it. And that topper shade I ended up putting all over, kind of like a really zhuzhed out look, but in no way do you have to complete a look as smoky purple as this. I just, for the purposes of this video, I wanted to use all of the colors so you could see how they would wear. Gonna be exact dupes. It's more just like the vibe. So here's African Violet, but again, this is more of a bright color. It's not exactly the same. Palette Pretty Baby, and this is what Pretty Baby looks like. This is such a great quad. I love it. So it's kind of like got that taupey color and this really pretty duochrome. This is definitely my favorite shade in this palette. And that purpley color. I'll do some swatches for you. Last palette that I could think that might have similar vibes. And forgive me, I have actually taken out some of the pans of this from the Natasha Denona Lila palette. And I was thinking the Lila palette would be similar, but definitely some of, okay, so maybe this top one up here is similar to this one up here. And again, there's not that mulberry shade. So I'll swatch this one again, and then this one up here, so you can see. So this is Natasha Denona, this is Lisa Eldridge, Natasha Denona, and this is Lisa Eldridge. So you can see very similar in terms of a formula. It's super creamy in terms of the metallics. For this eye, I'm going into a lighter look. So I'm grabbing the Mauve Decade, the muted gray lavender, and just putting that all over my lid. And then getting Violet Stone, that pure violet color, and creating a crease for myself. And then blending that out to create a crease. And then I lastly grab that Mauve Decade again and blend out the edges so there's no harsh lines. And then finally taking Illusionism, that top coat, and just putting that all over my mobile lid. I just really want a lighter look and not as smoky. Next time I do this, I probably would not use as much eyeliner, just for a daytime look. And that is that one look on that one eye for a lighter look. And on the other line, I'm going for smoky, Victorian trim. And I'm wanting to use this beautiful mulberry color all over my lid, going kind of nuts over there, and just really showcasing how bright and beautiful that is. Then taking that faded amethyst, that satin metallic taupey amethyst, and putting it on my entire mobile area. My 2 favorite colors of this palette. And then going into Violet Stone, that pure violet color, to smoke out the edges and add more dimension. And this is Sonia G Booster, Mini Booster. And then going into, again, just dipping in more and just seeing and taking my time since it's smoky, going back into Victorian trim and buffing out the edges a little bit. Then going into Illusionism and using that as my inner corner highlights. And I did go into Nocturama to deepen the outer corner a little bit, which I didn't get to film. But here's that smoky look on the other eyelid to see how smoky would go in for an evening look. Just comparing the two. I finished with two more eye looks. So I actually wanted to see if I could do a more lighter look on this eye. I used Mauve Decade, the muted gray lavender, all over my eyelid, and then this Velvet Violet Stone, which is a pure violet, and just kind of in the create the outer V. And then just using this really beautiful top coat, the Illusionism, the transparent base with ultraviolet sparkly pearls. It's just such a pretty color, and it's not translating really how pretty this is on camera. So I just wanted to go for a lighter look, something that could be maybe more daytime. I don't know if I'd go so smoky with my eyeliner, but I just wanted to show you that look could be achieved with 3 colors, and this is such a pretty topper shade. And for this eye, I wanted to see how smoky I could go, and also just showcasing that mulberry shade. It's so pretty. So using that mulberry, it's called Victorian trim. It's a velvet shade, rich and brown, vibrant mulberry. I just keep having this swatch. That's so pretty. And then using in the outer V a little bit of the pure violet, this violet stone, but really what really smoked it out was this Nocturama, this velvet deep black and violet. It's like a deep violet color, you can see here. And that really smoked it out here. And then going into this faded amethyst, this metallic, smoky, lustrous taupey amethyst is such a pretty color. The Lisa Eldridge Sorcery Eyeshadow Palette, inspired by medieval tales and legends. Sorcery is a story of the magicians, fairs, and fantasy of the Middle Ages. This palette really does what it says on the tin. It's just magic. Be spellbound by this precious curation of multifaceted jewel tones that have all the drama of a peacock's tail, perfect for bold evening looks. Taking alchemy to artistry, the colors and textures in this palette, from jewel tones to shifting duochrome, have to be seen to be believed. This is cruelty-free product from microplastics and talc. So for this eye, I'm focusing on the green shadows on this palette. So starting with Troubadour, which is a matte, is described as a deep, inky teal, and using that one matte shade in this entire Sorcery palette to lay down really some pigment. And it is very pigmented. I did not find it was patchy. I did not have any fallout, which was great. And then I decided to switch to a squirrel hair brush because it just packed on the color without having any fallout and dispersed the color much more. Then I went into Grotto, which is a metallic, cool emerald green. And then putting that on the outer third of my eye with my fingers, which you get better payoff. And just going in, making that smooth, it's beautiful. And then going into Madrigal, which is also a metallic shade, which is described as a blackened antique green gold. It is just gorgeous. I just felt like a peacock using this color. Then going with Troubadour, the matte on the lower lid, and then Grotto on the lower middle part of the lid. And then Mercurial, which is a luminous prismatic green to heather duochrome for the inner corner highlight. And that is the green look on that eye. It is beautiful. And then for the other eye, decided to use more of the blue tones, and then went into Swan Song, which is a satin metallic described as rich sapphire blue. I'm using my Chikuhodo Z Series eyeshadow brush because, again, I found that maybe with the mattes, and some of these are better with squirrel hair brushes. Then I'm going into Mage, which is a pale silvery sage green gray with icy blue, pink, gold, and green pearls. And it's beautiful, just using my entire finger for that. And then going in with Mercurial, which is a luminous shade, a prismatic green to heather duochrome on the inner corner highlight. And then I'm just mirroring the same colors on the bottom lid using all 3 shades. And then Mage is the bottom, and then Swan Song and the outer third of my lid. So that's the blue side. Beautiful. So this is the finished look with my eyes complete for the Sorcery palette. It is beautiful. I understand why this is sold out as of this filming, because there are a lot of blues and greens in this palette. So I decided, at least for these two looks, to keep them separate. So for this eye, I basically use these three colors here on top. Swan Song, which is a metallic, Mage, which is a metallic, and Mercurial, which is a luminous. And this is a duochrome. It's a green to heather. It's just such a gorgeous color. I don't know if you can see that. I just want to swatch all these again. Just how beautiful that is. And that is on this eye here. And then I decided to go more with the greens on the other eye, which does have the one matte in this palette. Troubadour, a deep inky teal, Grotto, a metallic cool emerald green, and Madrigal, a metallic blackened antique green gold. And these are just luscious colors. For the green look, I finished with a Chanel color in Celadon. Most of that Celadon color here has glitter, so I use that at the bottom here. And then I use this wonderful Black Forest color from Chantecaille, and I use that to tight line, and then a tight line up here, and then for my wing up here. And on the blue side, I ended up using these two colors, which I've used on my channel before. These are both Sisley liners. So this is the Phyto Coal Star in sparkling blue. Use that at the bottom again, and that has sparkle in it, so I don't put that in my waterline. And then I use the Sisley Waterproof Mystic Blue, and you can use that in your waterline because this is more of a matte. So I use that in my waterline down here and then above, and then use that to wing out. Such beautiful colors. These are the showstopper shades for sure, the metallics. I feel like I need to go out. These are like really showy shades. I don't know if I would use this during the day unless I was going to an event. I think for me at least, these are a little bit too bold for work, but I love these colors. These are reminding me of a lot of other palettes I have in my collection, but the formula is what is drawing me. The metallics for Lisa Eldridge are fantastic. I'm going to put on the Velvet Sorcery lipstick, which is the namesake of this palette. And then I also picked up the lip liner. So let me do a quick swatch for you. And I did do a full review of all 5 new lipsticks, and I'll put that above. And that is the lipstick, and that is the liner. And let me smudge this out for you. It's interesting. I'm seeing this lipstick on different people, different skin tones and undertones. And some of it looks really deep and brown, and some of it looks more like an affair, but with a more of an orange reddish undertone. So why don't I do this? I put some lip gloss on now. I have some staining from the previous Velvet Myth, but I try to take off as much as possible. I just want to show you what this can look like if you put gloss down and then kind of shear it out. And I have already deep pigment on my lips, so it's going to show up in a certain way that's different than other people. But that is Velvet Sorcery with a light wash of color. That sometimes these velvet lipsticks can be drying for them, and that can be true. I think the thing I like to do is make sure my lips are pretty moisturized before I put on any of these velvet lipsticks. I often put down I always have this on my vanity. I actually put down lip balm and then I matte it down, just making sure that it's moisturized. But this is what Velvet Sorcery looks like on its own. I didn't put any lip liner. I just kind of wanted to show you what it looks like. And then let me do it with like a lot of gloss. And I'm just doing that to show you how you can really get different looks with the velvet lipsticks. Like, you don't have to wear them velvet or matte. I often do these with my velvet lipsticks. Sometimes I put a gloss down because I want to, you know, sheer it out. And look how beautiful that is, just like as a glossy color. Let me get in closer so you can see how pretty that is sheared out by just putting gloss. So these lipsticks are so versatile in so many ways. You saw me put a light wash of color on it with like just a tiny bit of moisture underneath it, a little bit of balm. And I put a lot of balm just to make it glossy, and just so you can see how beautiful. Even that velvet lipstick can translate to like a very much more lush, like lush glossy lipstick. Okay, so I'm going to take that off and then put it on in its velvet true form. Okay, that's with the a couple swipes of the Velvet Sorcery and then the lip liner. I'm glad I got that. It's like a nice brown nude color. I'm gonna put one more layer on this. It's a beautiful color. I love this lipstick color. I think with this look, when I had more of a cool tone look, more of like a muted look, the lipstick looked a lot different than when my wear test for my first try. And it reminds me of like a cousin to the color Affair. Like, Velvet Affair is probably my favorite neutral color in my entire collection. So this is Velvet Affair on this side, and this is Velvet Sorcery. So you can see this one's a little bit lighter, Velvet Affair, and this is Sorcery. It does have more brown in it, and the other has more, I don't know what that is. It's just lighter color. Let me swatch these for you. Velvet Affair. And this is Velvet Sorcery. Okay, so this Velvet Affair almost has a little bit more orange to it, and it's lighter, and Sorcery has more of a brown, almost like a little bit like a clay red in there. So you can see like they're almost cousins. And let me share that out a little bit so you can see. I'm gonna share it out over here. Oh, you know, Lisa Eldridge just does it with the lipstick. That is Velvet Sorcery, and I'm gonna do what I did in the other videos. I'm going to take a bit of the lipstick here, just deposit it here, of her highlighter in Solar Light. Okay, mixing that so I create a blush, and it reminds me a little bit of like Dante's Dream. Such a beautiful color. And that way it just really kind of matches and melds together. And this is the final look. Velvet Sorcery, and then the Sorcery palette on my eyes. I almost have no words about this. Look how gorgeous this is. I really do hope she comes out with a gloss. And this is one of my favorite glosses, is the Velvet Affair gloss. I'm hoping she at some point comes out with a gloss for Velvet Sorcery, or for Sorcery. I'm just gonna take some of this gloss I have. This is the Affair gloss, and just put it on here. Gorgeous. It just adds, just like, it makes my lips look plumper. It's just beautiful, sexy. So this is the final look with Sorcery, the blue parts on this eye and the green shades on this side. By this time this goes up, you've probably seen a lot of reviews and looks, and I hope you find someone actually similar to your skin tone so you can see how this is showing up on me. So I consider myself medium tan, brown skin tone. In Asia, sometimes we're called more of the brown Asians, so that's why I also put that in my title. And so, yeah, I just wanted to show you what it looks like, at least for me. And if that helps you decide if we're similar skin tones or undertones, how this is going to show up on you. What I love about it is that it's mostly metallics and the luminous shade. There's only one matte in it, and these are just gorgeous colors. These are the colors that we've been asking for from Mama Pat's and from Pat McGrath in her palettes, and these perform. These are fantastic. I often get disappointed when I'm using green mattes or blue mattes. We don't have a blue matte in this palette, but the green one works. If you watch my channel, I did a review on the Pat McGrath holiday palette, and they had a green shade in there, and it was so disappointing. It was so disappointing. This Sorcery palette is my redemption palette for that Pat McGrath Celestial Holiday palette. That was very disappointing for me. Standalone, this is she's the it girl. This lipstick is the it girl. Just a quick possibility of dupes for the Sorcery palette. Viseart Petite Fleurs Lapis a lot. It's not the same because it's more, this is, you know, with that's warm tone, but then these two made it more cool tone. So I was thinking about that Viseart, about the Viseart one. This is, I think, an 8-pan. Yes, a Viseart. This is a beautiful one. But this is more smoky, but you can definitely get the vibes from that. And in terms of the same vibes, but not like a dupe, particularly the same colors, the Sorcery palette was giving me a lot of the vibes of this Birds of a Feather palette. And not exactly the same, as you can see, but you can see like there's some duochromes in there with a teal. Again, not the same colors, but definitely the vibe of like tropical birds hanging out together. And the last palette that I was thinking of, again, not an exact dupe, but the vibes were kind of giving me when I was using it. The Sorcery palette was reminding me of the Isamaya French Industrial palette, the vibes. So there's definitely that grungy green, the Lisa Eldridge one, and this is the Isamaya French one. So it's got that like grungy antique gold vibe going. It's going to be hard. It's not like a direct comparison because even the formula for the Isamaya French is, there's some grittiness to it. That's why it's the industrial palette. Let me just go ahead and swatch some of that for you. So you can see where it's like, this is more of like an elegant, shiny palette, glitzy palette, but this is more of a grungy glam palette, but the vibes are like reminding me of that. So let's talk about the entire collection. I don't think you need to get all 5. I definitely have favorites, but I'm so glad I tried all 5 of them because they're all different. They all have a different vibe. And I really respect Lisa Eldridge as a business person and a makeup artist, and I can see exactly what she's doing. She created 5 different palettes for people depending on whatever palette and color story is going to resonate with you. And clearly this is the party, this is like the star of the show, of the entire collection for the holiday. So I was a little bit bummed with the holiday releases this year, and you can see compared to last year, if you follow me, you knew that I got the Chanel holiday release, most of all but like one thing of the Dior release. The releases last year for the holidays were ridiculous, and I got so much of them. This year, I was not happy or inspired by really any of them. The Dior one, I got one palette and was like not really happy with it. And then the Chanel, super disappointed, decided not to get that. And this is really the only holiday collection that I actually bought this year. So I don't feel bad about buying all of these. Are they spendy? Yeah. I mean, this is luxury beauty. I think these are beautiful. I do wish that these were actually kind of a metal case, but that's just me being a bit nitpicky. But in terms of design, it's gorgeous. I mean, look at that. It's gold. You have the push pin, but the pins that you can use to push out the palette. So once I can see myself panning some of these for sure. Like in the Myth palette, I can see myself panning my favorite colors here, which is that mulberry color here and that. I could see myself panning, so then at least I can replace those colors and then the palette's not a wash. I'm really happy that she's kind of like giving us options. Maybe these color stories, any of the 5, I'm not sure, usually you can find one, but for some reason if the 5 don't appeal to you, you can certainly I'm hoping she can sell these separately, and I don't see that on her website just yet. I'd be curious to see if she will sell these palettes as empty palettes eventually so that you can create your own. I think that would be brilliant. I'm going to rank which palettes in order of like least favorite to favorite. Palette number 5 is Cinnabar. And Cinnabar is really pretty. I have a color stories like this already. It looked pretty on my skin. I think I might like this even more in the summer and when I'm more tan. I think what didn't resonate with me were the mattes in here, particularly this color. It's basically my skin tone, so I was disappointed that this wasn't one that showed up on me. But moreover, I can get the same vibes from Natasha Denona Bronze palette and other palettes I have. Yeah, for that this is number 5. Number 4 palette, and it was hard for me to pick number 3 and 4, is the Vega palette. And I picked Vega because of more of the quality of the shadows, and I need to use this more, but you can even see the kickback in my pans. Now, some of you had watched my first review and said you need to go gently with them, and maybe you should use synthetic brushes. Okay, I tried them. They didn't work, the synthetic brushes. I'm using Fude Japanese brushes, Sonia G, Chikuhodo, Hakuhodo. Those are like the Rolls Royce of brushes, and I'm a bit of a brush snob, as some of you are, so I'm not going to use synthetic. I did try it. It didn't make a difference. I think what I'm wondering is if this is like a batch issue on quality. I'd be curious. I was thinking about emailing Lisa Eldridge's customer service and seeing if there was an issue with quality. I do love the color story. I just the formulas on this palette are a bit fussy, so because of the kickback, and that's why it got number 4. Even though I love the color story, the quality, it could be a deterrent for me from using again. But this color here, I love it. It's like a slate gray blue, which is such an unusual color. I love the cool tone colors in here. And that is number 4. So the palette that's number 3 is Muse. And she's so basic and so saturated. Like, this color story is so typical and common in the market. I think most of us and most of you might have this color story. However, the formula on this and how it looked on my eyes went on so easily. Out of actually all of the 5 palettes, I find this palette to be the easiest to put on and the prettiest. Out of all the palettes, I could see this being the one I use almost every day during the day, and then bringing along with me to smoke out for an evening look. It's ranked higher because of the versatility. It's kind of like your everyday basic pretty girl. You can go really easy on a wash of color and just do these 2 shadows and call it a day, and that's a look. Do love the versatility of this, and that is basic versatility, but you can use this during the day and then smoke it out. I just think it's really beautiful, and if you see my review, it just looks really, really beautiful as a daytime look, and just ease. It was the easiest palette out of all 5 of these to use, so I really, really like this one, and that's why number 3. Number 2 is this. Because of the color story, I'm a sucker for purples, and I keep gushing about these shades in particular. I really love this shade here, this one, and this one. These are very unique shades. I love it. I'm a sucker for purples. I just love those 2 colors. And the quality of this, I didn't get any kickback. The amount of kickback I'm seeing on the Vega palette versus like Myth, to do with either like the velvet or matte formulas, there's just more, they're more powdery. So, and it's messier. I love the color story again. It's messy. So because of the color story, the less kickback and the quality, and just I was able to get 3 versatile looks with this. It looked different, like a little bit more different than the others. This was my number 2. And of course you can guess what my number 1 palette from this collection is. My number 1 for this entire collection is Sorcery. She is unique. This is a gorgeous color story. I am excited to play with this more this holiday season. I can see myself panning some of these colors in the formula. Moreover, There might be some glitter fallout, but again, I just knew towards the end of testing these products, because I got all 5, I knew to do my eye makeup first and then put on the wipe away any glitter fallout. And there was very little, by the way. I have found that the best way to use her topper luminous and then shades, like her luminous shade here, is to use my finger. And that's the way I prefer to use her metallic shades, is to use my fingers. And I'm used to doing that with a lot of indie brands and Natasha Denona and Pat McGrath. So it was a big deal. It's fine. It looks beautiful. I'd rather just use my fingers if I'm going to get an amazing payoff. So beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so she's number 1. The last thing I promised I would do was kind of like talk about the eyeshadows versus her liquid Lurexes. Now, I love the liquid Lurexes. I don't have all of the colors, but I have 8 of her colors, enough that I'm pretty familiar with the formula. You know, it's hard to compare. It's not apples to apples, but what I will say is that these are much easier to use. So if I was in a hurry, I've often actually grabbed 1 or 2 of these, or just 1, and then I've been fine, like call it a day. So I love the versatility of these. I've actually used the deeper colors, these ones here, as liners. You get more of an editorial look because there's a sheen. I just think that these are some of the best liquid eyeshadows on the market, with the quality and the color. They're much more affordable than the eyeshadow palettes. So these are $27 each. If you're on a budget and you're wanting to try Lisa Eldridge, I'd say, like, I'd recommend picking up 1 or 2 of these. My favorite ones I actually used in the first video, and you can check that out there, because it was like an everyday, and I just used 3 colors. I used, I think, Bianca, Angelica, and Zora, and created a really beautiful look. People got, and during that video, actually, in addition to people like commenting on the lipstick swatches, they were asking me about my eyeshadow, and they wanted a tutorial on that, just because it was so simple and beautiful. I often don't have time to make up like this. I'm filming at night. I'm a working professional full-time outside the house. I have a like a really busy, stressful job, and makeup is my therapy. So I'm doing this at night. I would have a hard time thinking that I could do a really glamorous look like this, full face, in the morning. I'm often reaching for these. So if you're the kind of person who wants more of a simple glam look, but with the ease of use, definitely think about getting these. Or that you can also think about just getting 1 or 2 of these shadows and putting it into a Z palette. You don't have to have all this packaging. You can certainly get 1 or 2 or 3 of these shadows, and these are $16 each. I still think it's a little bit pricier, but this is luxury beauty. And you could get 3 of these shadows and then have an entire look and put it into a Z palette. You don't have to have it in this palette. So if you want like bougie on a budget, but you have champagne tastes with a beer budget, then Z palettes are the way to go, and just grab 2 or 3 shades if you can of these singles, or just buy 1 or 2, because these glam it up really beautifully. So I'm just going to show you some of that. This is the color Bianca, and this is the color Angelica. And these are my 2 favorite shades in this entire collection. And then I just actually picked up Daphne in this collection haul. So, you know, just I kind of wanted to just compare. If you're wanting to get the Lisa Eldridge experience, if money and budget is a concern, consider getting that, because that's a little bit more budget friendly. Getting 1 or 2 shades, and then 1 lipstick. That's all you need. I would say Sorcery, when it restocks, or if you're a red person who loves red lipstick, definitely get the Velvet Duchess. So I would say that's it, beauty fam. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't seen part 1 of my Lisa Eldridge review of Muse, Cinnabar, and Vega, then find it up here or down below. And you can also check out my review of all 5 new lipsticks from this holiday collection, the Velvet series, all 5 velvets I tried on and swatched and did some comparisons. So check that out. And so please consider subscribing. I would love to have you as the Miki Cara Beauty fam. Please consider subscribing and commenting and liking below. And as always, please be very kind to yourself and others, and just be you. Take good care, beauty fam. Have a great holiday. Bye.